Welcome,
Welcome.
Housewives of True Crime, part 2 of this crazy wild case. If you missed the first part of the murder of Dan Markel, then you need to go back and listen to part 1. So I'm warning you right now, you have to listen to part 1 to listen to part 2, although it gets real juicy from here. So, yeah. So, I mean, you got to listen, go back. And if not, then welcome back.
Yes, you have to listen. You have to listen to part 1 because if not, part 2 won't make sense. And this is one of those cases that is still ongoing. So we're going to talk about this case a lot, not just on Housewives, but on the alternate. So anyway, definitely take a listen to part 1 and then come back here. But if you're here because you already listened to part 1, thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you for coming back. And we will just get right to it.
So with Sigfredo Garcia in jail, focus turned to Luis Rivera, who was the suspected getaway driver. But they probably would have taken your advice, Tab. But it turns out that Rivera was easy to find because he was already in federal prison on unrelated charges. Mm-hmm. Remember I told you that he was like a gang leader?
Yeah.
Well, he was in jail for some sort of charges. I don't know exactly what they were, but he was already there. So they didn't need to rush to get him. They were just trying to see what Sigfredo Garcia would say, and then they would hit up the other guy.
Okay.
After this, Leon County is where Tallahassee sits. A grand jury formally indicted both Garcia and Rivera for first-degree murder in June of 2016. Apparently, though, the death penalty was on the table, and that was enough to spook the two men into some sort of fear. And that's when Luis Rivera, who was the getaway driver, the alleged getaway driver at this point, that's when he flipped and he struck a deal.
Yeah.
In October of 2000,
They always do that. I mean, and
he would be stupid not to.
Yeah, like 100%.
Oh my gosh. And I'm going to get into this, but he didn't even know the Adelsons. Like his friend literally was like, hey, jump in the car. We got a job for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you imagine having a friend like that?
No, I would not have a friend like that. I'm getting rid of friends right now, actually. So,
and I don't know how old they were.
If you're a good person, you can be my friend. So,
and they were like in their 30s and not like these are like teenagers where like, you know, when you're a teen, you're like, okay, I'll go anywhere.
Yeah, no.
Like now you have to like knock my door down to even get me to leave my house.
And you even drove to come see me. Thanks.
I know. You're lucky. And the weather panned out. The weather panned out that day because Florida weather can be crazy. Okay. So in October of 2016, Rivera pled guilty to second-degree murder and he agreed to testify for the prosecution. In exchange for this plea, he received a 19-year prison sentence.
Still pretty big.
19 years is pretty big. I did read reports where he wasn't the trigger puller, but people were like, oh, we made a deal with the devil. And, you know, I felt like, well, you'll see what eventually ends up happening. Okay. So Rivera's testimony was actually helpful. It was evident he wasn't the key guy. He wasn't like the mastermind. He was like the guy who I said, you call last minute to get something done. Rivera said that he and Garcia had been hired to kill Dan Markel because, quote, the lady wants her 2 kids back, end quote. According to Rivera, Garcia implied that the lady behind the hit was Dan's ex-wife, Wendi Adelson.
Wendi.
So I actually listened to one of this guy's interrogations, and this Rivera guy actually said that initially, look at where this guy's mind is at, right? Initially, when his friend was like, hey, I have a job, we're going to go take out this guy because this woman is going to pay us all this money. Rivera actually turned to Sigfredo and was like, hey, instead of killing this dude, like this innocent dude, we should just rob the lady with the money. And that's it.
That's
that actually would have been a better idea.
Yeah.
But the friend was like, no, that's not what we were hired for. We're going to get the guy, and that's what we're going to do. Which is kind of crazy because I just thought about this right this minute. And maybe Garcia, and at some point, by the way, just at some point, Katie and Charlie break up. Like, it's really unclear in the reporting if they were dating immediately when he basically hired her or whatever. But maybe Sigfredo was like, I'm going to do this for Katie to show her like how willing I am to be with her.
For her. Yeah.
To do something for her.
Which,
I don't know. That's like really some kind of messed up love.
Listen, these people are twisted anyways. Like, to kill somebody is twisted. And how much money did they pay these people?
$100,000.
Oh, that is a lot of money. And how much was the driver guy getting from the 100,000?
I believe he got, don't quote me on that because I didn't write it down, but I believe he got, the shooter, I believe, got 40. Basically, he got 5,000 less than the shooter. So he either got 30 or 35. The shooter either got 35 or 40, and then Katie got the rest. But Katie also got a breast augmentation, and she also got a used Lexus out of it. I think she also got like veneers. Anyway, I didn't write this in my notes. I did read about it.
She got veneers because they own a dental practice. And those things are expensive, man.
Oh my God, those are expensive. I'll be like Invisalign, like, actually veneers, screw that. Don't waste my time. Yeah. So,
wow.
Well, anyway, I didn't say anybody was guilty. We're not there yet, Tab, okay?
Alleged.
All right, so
allegedly at this point.
Allegedly. Well, Rivera already took his deal, so Rivera is guilty. Rivera's testimony painted the hit as a murder for hire orchestrated by the Adelson family. He didn't actually have personal knowledge of the Adelsons. All he knew was what Garcia told him and what Katie relayed. He said the deal was that someone wanted Dan Markel dead because of the custody issue. And the two hitmen, we literally just spoke about this, they were paid $100,000 for the job.
Okay.
And, I said I wasn't sure about the amounts because there's differing accounts wherever you read. Yeah. Now, this case has been going on for a very long time. And as we'll learn here in a little bit, it's still going on. Notably, Rivera also mentioned that there had been an earlier attempt to kill Dan, but that attempt was aborted. You see, that happened in June of 2014, an entire month before they actually killed Dan. He mentioned they couldn't keep up with, they actually went to Tallahassee, they found Dan, and then they lost him, in a park, they lost him in a park or something, and then they were just kind of like, oh, we'll just come back another time.
It's a long drive, dude.
That is a long drive. And you know what? I have covered a handful of murder for hire cases, and it always seems that there is always a first failed attempt.
Yeah. I think
which is
nerve-wracking. I think it's nerve-wracking or something, and they're like, you know what, let's not do it. And then they're like, well, damn, $100,000 is a lot of money. I could use that. And then they ended up.
Why don't you go home and pray to Jesus is what you need to do. I can't even imagine.
100%. That's what you need to do. No.
It's just, I don't know. I am really a chicken about a lot of things, but that just seems I don't know.
If you do that, you have no soul.
No soul. These people don't even know Dan. They don't even know him. They're just
them.
That's just so heartless.
I know, but
not that any murder is okay, but that makes it that much more cold.
Well, and also if they're leaders of gangs, you think that maybe they've killed before.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So now that they had Rivera talking, it was time to get Katie, because remember, she had not yet been arrested. That happened on October 1st, 2016. Police finally arrested 32-year-old Katie McBanua. She was a mom of 2 kids, and now both their mom and their dad were in jail.
Yeah.
So sad. She was charged with first-degree murder and some conspiracy charges. She was basically said to be the no-kidding go-between the hitman and the people doing the hiring of the hitman. Katie, Katie, though, maintained her innocence, saying that she had nothing to do with Dan's murder. Now, the crazy thing is that investigators really, really wanted Charlie, Donna, and Wendi, but there still wasn't enough evidence. But they didn't shy away. Just like they didn't shy away in their first filings, they didn't shy away after Katie was arrested. They publicly named the Adelsons as having a motive, but they said that was it. They didn't have anything else. The Adelsons, though, they knew that they were being targeted and they weren't taking any chances. And so they hired a defense team and they proclaimed their innocence. They even offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to Dan's real killers.
Katie should have taken that for her own defense.
She should have. And listen, this is a case that keeps spitting out trials. The legal proceedings in this case turned into a marathon, stretching out over multiple trials and multiple years. The first to face a jury for Dan's murder were Sigfredo Garcia, the alleged shooter, and his once girlfriend, Katie McBanua, who was the go-between. And they were actually tried together. It's so rare to see a trial like this. But they tried them together in 2019. You know, I didn't look into this, but I wonder if they had two separate juries. Because they usually do. When you're trying two people, you have two separate juries.
One for one person and then the other for the other person. So it saves money, right? Like it saves money on like the experts.
Like presentation of evidence.
Yeah, like all that. I can understand why they do it.
Yeah. So Luis Rivera, having taken a plea deal, was the star witness against these two. And this case was a big, big deal. All the big true crime peeps of 2019 were on this case.
This is when we both started our podcast, by the way, in 2019.
I know!
So it was just right before we would have probably been there covering this craziness.
Yep, exactly. Yep. At this trial, prosecutor Georgia Capelman argued that Charlie and Donna Adelson had bankrolled a hit on Dan Markel, using Katie McBanua as the in-between, who in turn enlisted her baby daddy, Sigfredo Garcia, and his friend Rivera to do the deed. The motive, quote, family law, family drama, and the desperate desire of the Adelsons to reunite their daughter and grandkids in South Florida, end quote. Isn't that crazy that they are no kidding calling out the Adelsons during this prosecution and the Adelsons haven't even been charged?
Yeah, that's nuts, actually.
Have you ever heard of a case like this?
No.
Like usually they try to keep that like real, you don't want to defame them. I mean, but at this point, they're not saying lies. They're just saying like, we have evidence of some other shady things.
Man, Katie never talked. She just was like, yeah, I'm innocent. Like, I'm going to take this down to Chinatown.
Yeah. Well, until now, you'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Oh,
so
maybe she's going to talk. I'm just speculating here, but maybe she's going to talk for a reduced sentence or something like that.
All right. Well, we'll see. But so we're still in 2019. Guess who testified in this trial? I really want you to guess.
Charlie.
No.
Wendi
mother effing Adelson.
What does she say?
What? Okay, so
She's
everyone, just a reminder.
She's a defense witness.
No, she testified for the prosecution.
Wow, okay.
And guess what else? Not only did she testify under a grant of immunity. Are you familiar with immunity?
I am. So girlfriend did throw her family under the bus.
I mean, no.
But yes.
Not really. Okay. So let me tell you what she testified to. Ready?
Okay.
So, first let me talk about immunity. Immunity doesn't mean that she can never be prosecuted about the case. Immunity simply means that the state cannot try her for anything that she testifies to at trial when granted immunity, which, you know, like I said, it doesn't mean that they can't ever try her, just that whatever she testifies to, it basically can't be held against her.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll see. During her immunized testimony, Wendi denied any involvement in Dan's murder. She admitted that some family members, especially her mother, Donna, and brother, Charlie, were angry with Dan around the time of the divorce, but she acknowledged, and she also acknowledged the bitter custody dispute. But she flatly said that she had no knowledge of any murder plot, and she didn't believe her family was involved. She did not believe her family was involved. Wendi even joked on the stand about her own potential arrest. So I listened to this, and I think the prosecution asked her something like, or maybe it was the defense. Somebody asked her something like, "Oh, but you're testifying there under immunity, and that means that like they can't arrest you or something like that." And you know what she says?
What?
With a smile on her face, she giggles and she says, quote, "The state isn't going to decide to arrest me."
Like, she really thinks that?
Yeah. And it's interesting because many people that watched the trial, they found the way that she said this and the fact that she said this a bit jarring. She seemed really cocky, like they're never going to charge me.
Yeah, because she's a privileged girl. She never thinks that that would ever happen. And it hasn't happened, right? So it's like she feels like she got away with it. And then she's looking at these guys as less than her. And they're like, yep, they're not going to arrest. They're going to put these
exactly.
They're going to put these three in prison and, you know, wipe their hands clean and say we did it.
Yep. So Wendi did confirm the story of Charlie buying her a TV instead of a hitman, as well as the fact that on the day of Dan's murder, a technician was at her house fixing that said TV. She maintained that Charlie's hitman remark was nothing more than an ill-timed joke. So do you want to know who else testified at this trial?
Donna.
Nope. Not Donna.
No.
I don't think you'll guess this one.
No, I don't think so. Unless it's the dad, and I didn't really know anything about the dad.
No. So Wendy's ex-boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, this guy.
His name was Jeffrey Lacasse, and he was the man that she was dating just before Dan's murder. Apparently, they had broken up a few days before the murder. And it was like over email. It was something like she sent him an email like, "Hey, I need time to think about us. Don't contact me."
Okay.
This girl has like split personality, like no kidding. All right. So let's get into his testimony. Lacasse, he revealed 2 explosive conversations that he had with Wendi. I mean, it's weird because it almost seems like Wendy's on trial here, right?
Yeah.
When you hear what he says. The first conversation occurred 5 days before Dan was killed. Wendi told Lacasse that her brother Charlie had explored all options to take care of the problem being Dan, and that he had looked into having Professor Markel killed. She told her boyfriend, or soon-to-be ex-boyfriend, that it would cost about $15,000. Now, Lacasse wasn't sure. He testified to, I listened to his testimony. He said, "I'm not sure if she said 15,000 or 50,000, but he said she said it and she was very serious about the conversation." He testified that this statement made his stomach flip and that he found it incredibly disturbing. Now, imagine that you're talking to your girlfriend and she says like, "Oh, hey, my brother looked into hiring a hitman to kill my ex." I don't know. That's like, what do you think?
That's like real red flags. I mean, obviously he thought he had to have thought that that was true at the moment. And obviously he thinks it's true now. But I'm like, okay, this guy is talking about, is this not enough information to arrest the Adelsons also? It sounds to me like now we have hitmen that are talking about the Adelsons. We've got now Mr. Boyfriend Man, and still the Adelsons are walking free.
Yeah. And the thing with Wendi is that there's no corroborating evidence. Like, even Lacoste, he says, like, she told me this. Okay, she told you that. But is there any corroborating evidence that ties her directly to that? Like, is there any money, miraculously gone from her bank account, anything like that? And it doesn't seem like they ever got that.
Where was the
out
money
of Wendi.
going? Where's the money gone from said bank account? From the parents' bank account? Or, are they the people that have like a stash full of cash in their, closet?
So don't quote me on this. I believe they did get money. And we'll talk about this in a second. And then the money, I believe, one of the people, I don't think I wrote this in my notes, but the money came in stacks of 100 and it was stapled together. And then Katie, we'll get into this in a little bit. I don't think I wrote this in there, but Katie actually received some money, and then she was getting monthly deposits from the Adelson group or whatever it's called, like the dental practice.
Yeah.
And they basically added her to the payroll, and she was getting a little bit less than $500 a month.
They even add her to the payroll. I think that's actually, like, if you're not working there, I don't think that's actually law. I think that's against the law.
Of course it's against the law.
Like, add somebody to your payroll if they're not working there.
And she testified that she like showed up sometimes. She did a few things, and she was like a patient,
filed some
like a patient. Yeah, that she did some things. The whole thing is very strange. I don't know. It does appear that she did go in there at some point, and she basically says eventually she says like, "Oh, I asked Charlie to get me a job at the practice so that I could get insurance for my kids." Like, girl, this case is so convoluted. We would have to do like a 5-part miniseries to just like do a no kidding deep dive. But and we'll get to it. But there was 3 full trials and then the guilty plea. Okay, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay. All right. So Lacoste made that one statement. So he's like, "Oh, this one explosive conversation that she had with me," and I was like, "Oh, hell no." And then she like broke up with him, was like, I need time to think. Or that's like so weird. I'd be like, "Girl, don't ever call me. Like, good, bye." Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I would say. But apparently that didn't happen. Lacoste had a second conversation with Wendi, and this conversation happened a few weeks after Dan's death. And in this conversation, she told him that her and her brother went out for a celebration dinner. Celebrating what? Dan's death.
Oh
yep.
My gosh.
Yeah. I got to thinking about this a lot. And I bet investigators at some point, so I mean, Lacoste was still clearly communicating with Wendi after the murders. But what I think happened is, I bet, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating here, but I bet investigators showed up to Lacoste's house to talk to him because remember, Wendi, no kidding, told the cops, like, maybe my ex killed Dan.
Yeah.
And here he comes with these 2 statements about something that she said to him about murder and Dan. So Wendi seems really, really sneaky in my personal opinion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's throwing all these people under the bus. Like, it almost was like, "Hey, I'm going to do this in the beginning." Like you asked me, I was like, "No, why would you do that?" But it's like, she's going to save her own ass before she saves anybody else's.
Mm-hmm. And she kind of sticks to that attitude the whole time. Yeah. Okay, but I did a lot of research to prepare this. And I got to thinking about something else. During his testimony, he said that he was actually supposed, and this is Lacoste, right? The ex-boyfriend. Yeah. During his testimony, he said that he was actually supposed to be leaving town at 11 a.m. on the morning that Dan was killed. So he was going somewhere, right? And not only was he supposed to be leaving around 11 a.m., but Wendi knew about his travel plans. But unbeknownst to her, Lacoste actually left the night before on Thursday because he wanted to get a head start on the travel. I believe he was heading north towards Tennessee, or definitely in that direction. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking that maybe the idea was
to plant it on him.
In Wendi's mind, to try to pin it on him.
She was going to pin it on him. Yes, because like, that's what I'm saying. Like, like she gave his name up, right? Like obviously she knows that he didn't do it. She was trying, I'm telling you, like she's trying to save her own ass whatever way she can. Like, oh, maybe it's my brother. Like, why would she knew it was her brother? She knew it was her brother. She's like, I'm gonna like make my brother go to jail before I'm gonna go to jail. And then actually I'm also gonna make I'm gonna pin it on everybody around me but myself. So that I do not go to jail.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, lucky for Lacasse that he actually left early. Or, you know, there is so much speculation in this case. If he had not left early and he would have actually left like at 10:45 a.m.,
yeah, what if?
There would be a lot of speculation about his involvement in Dan's death.
Yes.
Anyway, that was just kind of like a little tidbit that I gathered. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of reporting on that. But when I watched his testimony, I was like, it just was like this like little light bulb in my head. I was like, does he realize how lucky he is that he left early?
No, he probably doesn't realize that. I mean, me and you realize that because we've done so many cases where it's like, you know, like we've done cases where you kind of don't know if the person is guilty or innocent, and based on just little evidence like that, could trigger somebody to be like, yes, it was you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, okay, this case just gets crazier. Rivera, then, remember, we're still in trial one. We're still talking about trial one. This is crazy. So Rivera, who was the getaway driver, he takes the stand. In gripping detail, he describes the entire trip from Miami to Tallahassee with Sigfredo Garcia, all the way to execute Dan Markel. He testified that he was told that the motive was to help the woman get her kids back. He described the entire murder, and he said that after shooting Dan, they drove straight to Miami, and they disposed of the gun along the way. And apparently, he went with investigators and kind of pointed out where he thinks they dropped it, but that weapon, the murder weapon, has never been recovered. So this trial entailed two suspects, Garcia, the alleged gunman, and Katie, the go-between. What do you think the results were?
I think they were...
Okay, so what do you think about Garcia?
Guilty 100%.
Okay, and what about Katie?
Maybe second degree.
You think that she was convicted of a lesser?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, kind of close. But despite all the evidence, the trial's outcome was split. So you're right. Not totally, but the jury returned a split verdict. Sigfredo Garcia was done for. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy. He was later sentenced to life in prison, escaping a death sentence only because the jury did not unanimously recommend it.
Okay.
So the death penalty was still on the table. However, for Katie Magbanua, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision. They were deadlocked. So the judge declared a mistrial. Oh, we know way too much about mistrials.
Oh my gosh, totally. Okay, I could also see that only because now you have all this evidence against the Adelsons in that courtroom then, right? Where you're like, okay, is it possible... This is where I would go as a juror. Is it possible that Charlie went straight to said ex-boyfriend, Sigfredo? Knowing that, you know, he's kind of a bad guy and bypassed Katie. Obviously I don't think that's true. But I think that's where the jury's head could have gone.
And I don't know that it came out in this trial. It did come out eventually, though, that they went into all the cell phone records. Yeah. And no kidding, Katie Magbanua was actually the go-between. There were 0 calls between the getaway driver and the Adelsons. Okay. And honestly, I didn't want to speak about this because I don't know exactly the fact for this one thing, but there was only one call from Sigfredo Garcia. to the Adelsons, and it was actually to the father, Harvey Adelson. Now, I don't want your mind to go anywhere because the defense attorney brings up like Sigfredo attempted to call the Adelson group, like the actual dental practice, and he got a voicemail, and the voicemail said, "Hey, if this is an emergency, contact this number."
Yeah.
And they gave the father Adelson, because it was his practice, not Charlie's. And that Sigfredo then called that number. But anyway, so that was the only phone call in all that time between the hitman and the Adelsons. So Katie McManua was no kidding the in-between.
Did they not bring up all the cell phone?
I don't know if that came out in this trial, though.
So, okay, so now we have another trial for Katie.
So yes, we do have another trial, but Katie does remain in jail awaiting her new trial. And that new trial was, supposed to be in 2020, but then COVID and all these other issues. It eventually took place in May of 2022. By this point, crucial developments had occurred. Charlie Adelson had actually been arrested. Now, I'm going to get into that in a moment because I know that you're like, what? Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank goodness. And the thing is, you remember that Dolce Vita recording, which was absolutely terrible? Okay, so in the in-between, it had actually been enhanced, and now they could use it at trial. And you know as well as I do, even for just podcasting, audio has just improved so much since I initially started recording in 2019 to now. So I can only imagine what the FBI, with all these tools that they have at their hands, could now do with this audio. And apparently it went from absolutely terrible to like now they could understand everything they were saying. Okay. In addition to everything they did in trial 1 for Katie, they also presented this enhanced audio. And guess what else happened at this trial?
What? Oh.
Katie took the stand in her Yep. Katie took the stand in her own defense. And she got up there.
Because I thought she's in Charlie's trial.
No. Charlie was,
Oh, that's right. Sorry. I'm confused.
Right before Katie's trial,
and yes,
Charlie had been arrested.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we're still in Katie's trial.
So they have the enhanced version of what they were talking about. Charlie and her were talking about at Dolce Vita.
Okay. To basically show that she was the go-between, right? Okay. In addition to this, so you have to remember, right? Because we're working on a retrial right now, right? So they have all the evidence from the first trial. Now they have this enhanced audio, and then they present it. And after they rest, Katie takes the stand in her own defense.
Okay.
And she no kidding gets up there and she denies everything. She says, "I don't even know what they're talking about. I was not involved in Dan Markel's murder at all."
She's like, "That wasn't me on that. I'm not Dolce Vita."
She's like, Shaggy. She's like, "Wasn't me?" I was like, "Girl, we got you on video. Like, not just audio, but we got you on video." Okay, so just like us, the jury didn't buy it. And on May 27th, 2022, Katie McManua was found guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation. She was later sentenced to life in prison, plus 2 additional concurrent 30-year terms.
Girlfriend is never getting out.
Never. I remember she was arrested when she was 32 and she has these 2 young kids. Like, girl, my heart, like, I can't. Okay. So I've told you so much already. And let me just recap because I know it kind of gets confusing. Dan was killed in 2014. The getaway driver pled guilty in 2016. Garcia, the shooter / baby daddy, was convicted in 2019, and Katie was convicted in 2022. But what about the Adelsons? As I just mentioned, Charlie was finally arrested in April of 2022, and that was all thanks to the enhanced Dolce Vita audio. And it also had this additional tidbit, and, that was the additional tidbit. And of course, there were all the wiretaps and cell phone data. Prosecutors took the case before a grand jury, and this time they wanted to bring charges against Charlie Adelson. and they were successful. On April 21st, 2022, 45-year-old Charlie was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, solicitation, and conspiracy to commit murder. But in addition to all of the evidence they already had, guess what else happened after Charlie's arrest?
They arrested Donna.
No.
Katie decided to talk.
Yes!
Mhm.
Oh my God, it's like you've done this before. Yes, Katie flipped. Here she was taking the stand in May of 2022, denying any involvement. I think that was kind of like her Hail Mary, right?
Yeah.
But once she was convicted and sentenced, she decided to turn state's witness against her ex-boyfriend, Charlie. And Charlie Adelson's trial began in October of 2023. The prosecution's case against Charlie mirrored what we already know. They argued that Charlie Adelson orchestrated the hit of his former brother-in-law out of loyalty to his sister, Wendi, and under pressure from his mother, Donna, who was desperate to get her daughter and the kids away from Dan. In their narrative at this trial, Charlie was the money man who hired Katie McBonua, his then girlfriend, to contract the hitman, to basically hire them.
Yeah.
And he coordinated everything thereafter. They pointed to a flurry of phone calls between Charlie, Donna, and Katie in the days and hours surrounding the murder as evidence of a conspiracy. And one thing they pointed to was phone records that showed a suspicious string of phone calls on the morning of July 18th, 2014, which was the day of the murder. And it connected the Adelsons and Katie, calls that abruptly and randomly stopped right around the time when the murder was either about to take place or was taking place. And then it picked up those phone calls, those flurry of phone calls, picked up again right after Dan was shot, almost as if to say, it's been done.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens in a lot of these murder for hire plots, or a lot of the murder. There's some murder for hire plots, or there's some cases that are akin to murder for hire, but there's no money really exchanged. It's kind of like, do this for me. You know what I mean? And it's always the cell phones. And the wiretaps and undercover recordings were front and center at Charlie's trial. The jury got to see and hear the Dolce Vita video of Charlie and Katie McBonua in 2016. And remember, that happened right after the bump operation.
Right.
But perhaps the most compelling witness against Charlie was, of course, Katie herself. Now, Katie, so if you see a picture of Charlie, I'm sure that we'll have it up here.
Yeah.
But Charlie's hair at one point just looks like all bizarre. Like, it's just like wild and crazy. Like, he has a lot of hair.
Okay.
And so it's really funny because he kind of looks like a mad scientist. I don't even know why that image just popped into my head, but you have like a mad scientist, like, I don't know, like the mad dentist or whatever, or periodontist.
Gosh.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that. I don't know why it popped into my head, but everyone go look at a picture. So Katie took the stand, and while she still tried to minimize her own role, she did place the blame squarely on Charlie. She testified that he was the one who initiated talk of looking for someone to take care of the problem. And she understood this to mean finding a hitman to kill his brother-in-law. Katie admitted to being the messenger between Charlie and the hitman. For example, she passed along instructions, and she also brought along payment for the two guys. She placed, though, all the blame on Charlie. But the defense, well, they came up with a very, very good strategy. So what do you think his defense was?
Well, I don't know, actually. I don't know what I would, if I was, maybe I would blame it on Katie and say she was trying to win Charlie over. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay, well, kind of the first part. So the defense claimed that Charlie was being extorted by Katie. He basically was like, Charlie is being extorted by Katie and the hitman after Dan's murder. In other words, they claim that Katie and Garcia killed Dan of their own volition, and then they tried to shake down the wealthy dentist Charlie by making him think that they did it for him, or that if they didn't pay them, they were going to turn him in.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not a good strategy. I don't think they buy that. I hope they don't buy that.
No. Well, it was a very convoluted theory, but you have to remember, Katie was kind of like a liar, pants on fire. She went from like, oh, I did it, I was not involved. She testified like 18 months before this trial.
Know that?
I believe that they do. I believe that I'm not gonna lie. I did not watch this specific trial, and I didn't watch her testimony, but I goes to her credibility.
Yeah.
Anything that goes to your credibility could, in essence, come out in trial. And I am pretty sure that they knew that when she was a liar, she testified under oath, and now she was testifying under oath again.
Yeah.
So
like,
we do have that,
if
right?
I'm going down, I'm taking the people that made me go down with me, you know?
Right. So you're right. It was a convoluted theory. And the prosecutors, they were like, jury, do not fall for this. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. So after a roughly 2-week trial and 7 days of testimony, the case went to the jury. So Tab, real quick, now that we're doing trial coverage, can you believe that this trial for murder, like a murder for hire plot where you had to like attach all these, like connect the dots, it only took 7 days.
And we're going to be at 7 weeks with Karen Reed's trial.
I can't, like, sometimes I don't understand why some trials take forever and a day.
Do you know how long?
But anyway,
OJ's trial?
11 months.
It was like a year or more. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
And the jury was sequestered.
That's funny you said that because I just learned that.
Crazy.
Who?
The jury was sequestered.
And what are they getting paid? Like $2.22 $2.22 a day?
Yes. I mean, it's like just nuts to me.
Do we know of, so sorry, sidetrack, squirrel. I was going to say, do we know of any of the OJ jurors ever wrote a book? Because I would want to make some money after that.
Oh, 100%. I hope
Let's Google that. Anyway.
I hope all of them did.
Well, we know OJ wrote a book. So, okay. So let's get to it. It didn't take the jury long to decide. On November 6, 2023, the jury deliberated only 3 hours or less, and they returned a decisive verdict. Charlie Adelson was found guilty. Yep, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of solicitation to commit murder. For Dan Markel's family who were present, it was a moment of, quote, unbelievable joy and relief, end quote. And those were the words of Dan's father, Phil. They had waited 9 years.
God.
Can you believe it took 9
That's
years?
ridiculous.
And they finally, 9 years, and they finally were like, okay, now we know that the person responsible, or at least one of them, has finally been convicted. A week later, after the conviction, Charlie Adelson was sentenced, and he basically received the same exact sentence as Katie. Life in prison for first-degree murder and 30 years for conspiracy and another 30 years for solicitation stacked on top of the life term. Charlie, now in his late 40s, maintains his innocence. Like, no kidding, crazy scientist hair and all. He is like, I'm innocent. I had nothing to do with it. And he's already filed a ton of appeals. His appellate lawyers argue, among other things, that the intense pretrial publicity prevented a fair trial and that some evidentiary rulings were flawed. I mean, this was a really big case. It still is. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second. For the Markel family, Charlie's conviction was a significant victory. But the story isn't over yet, Tab.
Don't tell me he won an appeal.
No. There was another person,
Donna,
sitting right there in the courtroom, and investigators knew she was involved.
Donna.
Donna Adelson, the matriarch of the Adelson family.
Listen, they all
for years.
Harvey was in it too. Like, don't tell me that you're
Harvey's like the dumb, quiet dad in the back. I mean, I hate to say that, but we could talk about him some other time. But yeah.
But come on, like your wife is paying $100,000 to get your son-in-law off, like about it.
Yeah. I mean, potentially. I mean, he could just be like
Potentially
a wallflower.
No.
He definitely, I mean, he definitely knew, but I don't know, he sounds like Donna is a very pushy woman.
Mm-hmm. I know the type.
What is that movie? My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah.
First of all, have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
I love that movie, by the way.
I know the type of person that Donna is. Like,
yeah, like she just reminds me. Now, My Big Fat Greek Wedding was like a really lovable movie. But the mom who's like really overbearing?
Yes, I know that's Donna.
That's what Donna reminds me of.
100%. This is Donna. She is going to get what she wants. She lives in Florida. She probably lived in New York at one time,
Oh my gosh. Okay, so who I haven't talked about, and so I'll just tell you this real quick, side note, not in my notes, but Donna does have an older son. Remember Robert, I believe his name was?
Okay.
And he's estranged actually estranged from the family. He's estranged from the family because when he met his wife, I believe she was of a different religion, and Donna was like, hell no.
Yeah.
Nope. So I believe at first he broke up with the girlfriend, but then he realized his mom was crazy and he eventually ended up marrying her, and he basically broke ties with the family.
Wow.
He eventually gives an interview. But anyway, we're not even going to get into that right now because that's like literally like a different episode but that's how overbearing she was, that she ran one of her kids off.
Yeah.
So for years, many believed that Donna Adelson was the silent driving force behind the plot to kill Dan. Donna was incredibly close to her daughter, Wendi, and she doted on her grandsons. By numerous accounts, she loathed Dan Markel for keeping Wendi in Tallahassee and for what she perceived as mistreatment of her daughter. There was also an infamous family email where Donna offered to buy Wendi a TV. Wink, wink. What? These people need to stop talking about the damn TVs. In her email to Wendi, Donna wrote something like, I have looked into TV prices. It's cheaper than the surgery your husband needs.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what they should have done, really, and this is like twisted, but they should have been like, hey, for being such a great dad, we're going to give you veneers and we have to, give you that gas. And then.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably.
Tab, you are giving people ideas out there.
That is really what they should have done.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is. Yeah, you stop.
Well, I'm just saying that's a better one.
I know, but no, yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't there. Well, anyway, squirrel. Yeah, no, but instead they're sitting here talking about TVs and like putting it in emails and talking about it over the phone and testifying about it in trial.
Yeah. These people are such bad people. I'm telling you, they all need to go to jail. I bet you're going to tell me that Wendi and Harvey are like living their best lives down in Miami, still, cleaning people's gums.
No, I actually looked up the practice and they got like, I don't know, terrible reviews. Anyway, like everybody is on Google, and this is where I was talking about Wendy's book. Like I think she has like 3.5 stars. And actually when you go on there, like some people are like, oh, I came on here because I heard that, she may have killed her husband, but the book is actually really good. And then you have some other people. I saw this one, it was actually translated. It was in Spanish. And it was like, she's a murderer. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, people are so twisted. But anyway, okay. All right. So TV, email, code for hitmen. So all of this fueled the belief that Donna was intimately involved in planning Dan's demise. Well, authorities hadn't acted upon Donna because they were saving her for last. Days after Charlie's conviction, the FBI cornered 73-year-old Donna Adelson at the Miami International Airport.
Oh, was she like hightailing it to Mexico?
Ma'am, she was with her husband with a bag, and they had a one-way ticket to Vietnam.
Oh no, she was never coming
Yep.
back.
She was never coming back.
Oh,
So now, oh my God, remember that one statement that Charlie made
yes.
in that Dolce Vita? Like, isn't this the craziest case where literally, like, you are connecting the strings of the board?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
my gosh.
So now Donna Adelson faces the same charges as her son. Essentially, the state believes that Donna was an equal partner, if not the planner,
Yeah.
to have Dan Markel killed. A Leon County grand jury had secretly indicted her, and now it was official. She promptly pled not guilty to all charges. Through her attorneys, she maintains that she has absolutely no part to do in this murder plot. They claim she's an innocent grandma being blamed for her son's action. As of now, Donna Adelson is sitting in a jail cell in Tallahassee awaiting
Oh my
jail. Now,
Trial.
wait a minute.
Trial. Okay, so
Awaiting her trial.
hold on 1 second, real quick. She was so worried about seeing her grandkids and having them in Miami, and she's gonna hightail it to Vietnam, where like she's never freaking gonna see them ever again. I mean, unless they can
Ever.
visit, but that's a real far place to go.
Yeah. No, but you know what? You want to know what the irony in this case is? That she didn't want her daughter and her grandkids in Tallahassee. And now she's sitting in a jail
I hope
in Tallahassee.
she just stays. I hope they have like some prison there that she can just stay in there.
Like punishment, like that is like her eternal hell.
Yeah.
So there have been so many delays in this case, but as of now, the trial is scheduled for August of 2025.
Oh my gosh, are we gonna
And
be doing
guess who's on the case?
who?
Us.
Me and
Yes.
you.
Yes, we are covering this case.
Oh,
Girl, I was
my
so invested. That's why I wanted to do this case for you because I didn't know much about it. I knew the initial, about the 2019
Yeah.
trials, but man, this case is so crazy. I can't even imagine what this trial will be like. I'm super excited. If Charlie's case was only 7 days, this case
Okay,
shouldn't be that
yeah.
long, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just.
Well-
Actually, I think Brian Koberger's trial is going to get pushed out a little bit, anyways, because I was.
I saw that. We can talk about that in a little bit because that is insane.
We
Okay, so let's
talk
let me-
about
let me-
that on the Patreon for the alternate.
Oh yeah.
It is a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so I know everyone is thinking, what happened with Wendi Adelson? That leaves one major character in this saga whose fate is still unresolved.
They're
I
just
call it
waiting.
unresolved. Yeah, Wendi Adelson. From day one, people have asked, was she involved in her
Well, of
ex-husband's
course
murder?
she was.
Or was she
There are some sort of. There's some sort of something.
Yeah,
that
but
they
you
could
said it
do.
yourself. Is she an unwitting beneficiary of a crime that was masterminded by her mother and her brother? Is she really that cruel, Tab, that she would throw her family under the bus like that?
Yes.
Maybe. She has this really cute little girl face. Like she's like in her 40s like us, but she is like just looks like a young girl. Like she looks like she's 22 years old.
Yeah, that plays in her favor, right? But
Yes.
those ones sometimes I'm like, those are always the ones where I'm like, oh, something's up in there. I think that
Yeah.
I think now after I've heard the story, yes, I think she was involved. She knew about it. So there's a point where you're the attorney. There is something like she could have stopped it. She knew. Obviously, she got the email about the TV. Like she knew that they were going to do it. Also, Harvey, I think you could arrest him and charge him for something too. He was hightailing it to Vietnam. He's like, oh yeah, honey, we're just going to leave our medical practice because you want to go to Vietnam now. I mean, I know she was, like a very forceful woman. But I think at one point you'd be like, listen, woman, we're not going to Vietnam forever because you want to.
Yeah. I don't know. The only tie to Harvey in this whole case is that one random phone call.
Yeah.
from
So
Sigfredo.
no. So there's probably not enough evidence to convict him.
No, there's not enough evidence for Harvey. And by the way, the defense tried to say, it was really weird. The defense tried to say that Sigfredo called the practice because he was actually trying to get a hold of Charlie because he was pissed off and he was threatening to kick his ass if he didn't stop seeing his girl. And it was all this drama, but apparently that wasn't true. I don't know.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so okay. So Wendi is free. And you know what I found so interesting besides this entire case? I read somewhere that Wendi was still the beneficiary of Dan's life insurance.
Did she get it?
So homegirl got the insurance money.
And how much was that? Do you know?
I don't know. I didn't.
Probably
They
a
didn't
lot. He's
say,
an
but
attorney and like a well-accomplished.
he
guy.
was.
She probably got like $5 million.
And you always, yeah, you're supposed to cover like what your income is times 10, especially if you have kids.
She got it. Yeah, she got millions, I bet. And I bet you they just don't have enough to convict her. And my only like thing that I think about in these kind of cases is that these two boys lost their dad so young that it would be really devastating to lose their mom too. And so although she is, a pitiful woman in my eyes, like to lose both your parents would be really awful. And they lost.
Yeah, they were little.
And they lost their. I know you said daycare, and I was like, oh my gosh, which maybe is a better thing than being a little bit older. We had recently in my town, and it was not a murder or anything, but these two boys lost their dad to a motorcycle accident a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
and I just think about they're young, but they're not that young. They're like 15 or 16 and 13. I think that's like a pivotal age that if you lose a parent at that age, it's just, it's life-changing. And so maybe these boys were young enough where they don't really remember it. They kind of remember their dad as somebody, but, and have some sort of nice feelings about him, but they won't really remember him as a person.
Yeah. So Wendi has never been named or she has never been charged. But as I stated, the state, they have named her as an unindicted, which is weird, unindicted co-conspirator during Charlie's trial.
Well.
Yeah, well, they did. They did. Yeah, no, they.
Maybe she's next. I mean, even if she's not, she's living in fear for sure of it, right? Like, I would be like, I wouldn't be able to sleep comfortably at night if I was her.
No. So, I haven't brought this up, but in addition to Wendi just being real weird, she did move to Tallahassee, like within days of Dan's murder. She said she was like, I was only supposed to go. She moved to Miami. Sorry, not Tallahassee. She moved to Miami. Yes. And she testified like, I only packed like an overnight bag for them. And, I wasn't intending to stay there, but then it just kind of turned out. And I just came up to Tallahassee a few times and they were like, yeah, but you moved there permanently. Right. And she was like, she said something like, I'm still, it's still temporary. And the attorney was like, you've been living there for 5 years. And she was like, yeah. Like, it was just so, the attorney, it was a female attorney, and she was so freaking funny and just like short and sassy. Like, I was like, you go girl. Like she was awesome. So, in addition to this, a weird thing that she did. So she ends up moving right away. No one's shocked. She also changed the kid's last name.
Oh, I do not like that at all.
She is a giant a-hole. Yeah. So so Dan died in July of 2014, and she testified that she enrolled the kids in school that year under her name, basically like the kid's name. She got rid of the Markel name. And then a year later, she went to court and actually changed their names.
She's an evil woman, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, she claimed that she did this to protect the kid's identity because of all, which is weird, because of all of the, like the publicity around his murder. I do think it's a bit comical considering that Charlie Adelson is now a convict and her mom, Donna Adelson, is also pending
maybe
trial.
she should go back.
And so now the kids are stuck with the Adelson last name.
Oh, man. Once they get 18, they can.
So I feel bad for the boys.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how they're holding up. I mean, they've got to be like teenagers at this point.
Yeah. They're still, like 13 or 14. It's been 11 years. Yeah. Yeah. So let me talk about Dan's parents real quick. Cause, and sorry, everyone, I won't normally, cover a case that's this long, but there's so many different moving parts to this case.
I'm going to break it into
two. Dan's parents. You can?
Yeah, I'm going to break it into two, but I drop them. This is what we do. You can take this out, Damian, but I drop them on the same day, but just so like if somebody has like,
good.
I'll drop it on the same day.
Okay. So will we do another intro right after this? Okay. So I haven't talked about Dan's parents much, but they were a big part of why this case continues because they weren't giving up on their son. Ruth, who is Dan's mom, she has worked with Florida lawmakers to pass a law for parents of murder victims to allow the grandparents to see their grandchildren if the remaining or surviving parent was somehow involved in their loved one's murder. The law is dubbed the Markel Act, but it hasn't been helpful for the Markel family because Wendi has never been charged. But that doesn't matter to them, and they are hopeful that it will help other families. So real quick, since we're breaking this into two parts, I can go on. But she actually requested this because Wendi stopped. Initially, she allowed Grandma and Grandpa Markel to come and visit the kids, but at some point, she forbade them from coming to see the kids. So the grandparents, Dan's parents, lost complete contact with the boys. Wendi did testify that she did that because at one point she believed that the Markels were trying to get the kids placed in foster care. The prosecution was like, hey, that conversation happened to be something involving if you were somehow charged in the case, what would happen with the kids? But Wendi was like, I don't care. I felt like they were trying to take my kids. I didn't feel like they were safe. So I did not allow them to see my children anymore.
Oh, she is so, nothing about this woman I like at all. Because, that is the last thing that they know. Oh, wait, sorry. That is the last thing that they know of their son. It's like a piece of their son.
Yeah.
And so how devastating for these grandparents that they don't get to see that piece of, the part of their son that they have, these two little boys, and they probably look like the dad. And so that's so, so sad.
And you know what? It just occurred to me. It's interesting how that happens. But it just occurred to me. I wonder if that also had something to do with why she changed the kids' names. Like she didn't want the grandparents to show up and like try to take the kids out of school, which
just is an evil lady. Like she is.
Yeah.
I wonder if she is dating anybody now or remarried or what. But I would steer clear.
I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years, I don't know, she ends up getting remarried and then that person ends up, dying. I always feel like those Black Widow cases come up, right?
I know. I mean, if she's this heartless.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so actually interesting to me that she said in that initial interview that her parents did not like him and she even named her brother. This is where I'm going with like, I think she was covering her own booty right away.
Yeah, I mean, and if she was, that's like really evil to be involved in this.
I think she's
and then to like
woman.
And then the question is what's going to happen at Donna's trial? Is Wendi going to testify again? Because she testified at the first trial. She testified at Charlie's trial.
If she's subpoenaed, does she have to?
If she's subpoenaed, she does. I mean, she does have to. And if she shows up, she would probably testify under another grant of immunity.
It's probably in her best interest, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, wild. All right. So let me keep going with Ruth Markel. She is Dan's mom. And so she's actively out there fighting, trying to get things passed in the law. In the meantime, she also wrote a memoir titled The Unveiling, which is about her journey through grief and the fight for justice. She's been very public, giving interviews on shows like CBS's 48 Hours in 2020 and local news to keep Dan's memory alive and to pressure the authorities to pursue every lead. She said, quote, "I won't be invisible and I won't be silent." She said this resolutely, explaining that too often victims' families are forgotten as cases drag on in the court system. Dan's father, Phil Markel, and sister Shelley, they've been more private, but they stood by Ruth's side and they were present at all the trials. They know that there's still Donna's trial to endure, but they at least feel that the major players have finally been exposed. As of this recording, all eyes will be on Donna Adelson's trial, which is scheduled for August of 2025. It promises to be another dramatic courtroom showdown.
All right. So can we talk to Ruth? I would love to talk to her. We should reach out.
I don't know. I mean, probably after the Donna trial, right?
Yeah. Or before. Be like, let's go, Ruth. Let's get this freaking lady. Because I'm sure that, can you imagine? They were in-laws, right? Like they were at the wedding together. Like I just could not even imagine what I would feel like. You trusted these people. You trusted your son to marry into this family. They both are of Jewish descent, so they're both of the same religion. They never in their wildest dreams ever thought that anybody could do this, especially people that they trusted, that they danced together at the wedding, that they had they were at the hospital probably with the babies coming and all this stuff. And then you're like, this is what you did to my son, you piece of garbage.
Yeah. Well, I had not written this down because I was like, I do not want to make this longer than, I just want to kind of get the facts out there. But it's funny you mentioned the wedding because things started to go a little like, Dan and Mama Donna, that's what they call her in the news, by the way. Mama Donna.
Okay.
Mama Donna Adelson. Anyway, Dan and her bumped heads at the wedding, actually, because you have these two Jewish families and they both kind of like chip in for the wedding. And apparently, the Adelsons were responsible for paying and planning the
reception.
The food.
Okay.
What do you call the food? Whatever it's called, the menu or whatever. And so Dan was like a devout Jewish man. And so he kept kosher. So he figured like, hey, they're going to have like wedding. All kosher options, a kosher wedding. And when he shows up to his own wedding, it's not kosher.
No way.
And apparently it caused like a big argument with Dan and Donna. This is all tabloid information, but I mean, I can see that happening. And it actually gets kind of crazy because Dan is like an overly, devout Jewish man. And, the Adelson family, like they are Jewish, but they don't really follow.
Yeah. Even though their kids had to marry a Jewish person or they were going to like kick him out of the family, which is that's also ironic, right? It's like, come on.
Kind of what they did to their first son, right?
Yes, because it's like you don't even go to temple and you don't even eat kosher. And so now, but please don't marry a Christian. Also, I was thinking about this show. Did you ever watch that show, Nobody Wants This, with Kristen Bell?
Yes, I love it. It's going to be, is season 2 out yet? I know it's coming out
but
soon.
I cannot wait. But remember in, when she doesn't know and she brings this like charcuterie platter to
Oh, and then the mom is eating it in the back.
yeah, and then the Jewish mother is like eating it behind closed doors. It was such a good part.
That was so good. No, that was so funny. And then they come out and they're friends again.
Yeah.
And the mom is like,
oh my God.
"Say nothing." Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Such a good show.
That was really good. I remember like not initially wanting to watch that. I don't know why, but I was just kind of like, oh, and then I started watching it and I was hooked.
Yeah,
I was like,
too.
oh, okay.
Me too.
Yeah, no, that was really good. So yeah, so that happened at the wedding. And then, by the way, just a side note, during the trying to get Dan to let the kids move to Tallahassee, there was something about Donna saying something like, we should start taking the kids to a Catholic church just to piss him off.
Oh my gosh.
Like, she was so mean. Oh, and I didn't mention this because this is all, like I said, y'all, there's so many facts to this case, but there was another part where the family, the Adelsons, had actually discussed, and I don't think they ever presented this option, but they had actually discussed raising $1 million among themselves. So, kind of like maybe the mom and dad give like 650 and then Charlie gave the rest. But they wanted to basically put together $1 million and offer it to Dan while he was still alive to basically bribe him into saying like, hey, let the kids move to Tallahassee and we will give you $1 million. That never happened, but there was discussions and Wendi did acknowledge that was a discussion that they had.
Wow.
But she says she never presented that option to Dan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
crazy. Like, I mean, this family just seems insane. Like, I mean, it's not even like they live in the same state. Like, 8 hours is far, but whatever.
Yeah. And then tell me, did that family ever get that ring back, or Wendy's still freaking having it?
I didn't read into that filing.
We hawked it, knowing that biatch.
She may have. I know that there was a filing after the divorce and this was, I think this was filed at the same time that he filed that motion to not allow Donna to see the kids by herself. But he also filed a motion saying that during the divorce proceedings, Wendi didn't reveal all of her assets. Basically, like she lied.
Mm-hmm. Surprise, surprise.
So.
All right. Well, that is a good one.
Crazy.
And guess what? It's still continuing. So we will be on top of that on both Housewives and on the alternate. So that's a good one. Thanks, Margot. You did crazy on that case. Such good research. Okay. So thank you all for listening. You obviously know that we have another podcast called The Alternate. And you are going to be seeing more of Margot around here. So hopefully you like her as much as I do, because I love her.
Fingers crossed.
And also, if you like me even more, you can support us at patreon.com/Housewives of True Crime, or go on to the Clink Clink Club on Apple or on Spotify. It's just the Housewives of True Crime bonus content. And if you will please, if you haven't rated or reviewed me in a while, or Housewives of True Crime, and you are still loving this content, please go in and give an updated review. That would help me a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that's all for today. So, clink, clink.
All right. Clink, clink.